Okay, I think we can begin. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you. We're reading on page 32 and the line 378, correct? So we're reading about Aswapati's yoga. Aswapati is the father of Savitri, and it is his realization of his yoga and also his aspiration as a representative kind of the earth consciousness, the evolving earth consciousness. He's the forerunner. He has, at the summit of his quest, has brought down, has called the Divine Mother down to the world. And then she is incarnated as his daughter, Savitri. But, so we were introduced to Savitri in the beginning, and then it kind of flashes back in the beginning of this canto to Aswapati's yoga. At the beginning of that brings her down. So these cantos, this one, to some degree, the next two cantos give an overview of Aswapati's spiritual realization. And then in the next book, book 2, which the Traveler of the Worlds, we're given a kind of an in-depth tour of his experiences in the subtle worlds. And after that, it continues into his realization, his kind of climb up towards the Divine Mother to bring her down. So that is, in a way, the kind of the first half of the book and of the whole epic. And then we turn kind of back again to Savitri and her story. So we're given kind of an overview of his experiences here in these first cantos. And just to say that overview, it presents a kind of a realization that in a way goes beyond the traditional yogas in India, because he has an integral realization. He has not only a kind of a release of the spirit into the transcendent, but he is able to also bring down the dynamic aspect of the divine into himself. And all of those are kind of described in these cantos. So perhaps with that introduction we can begin. And Mihong, would you like to start?
The voice that only by speech can move the mind became a silent knowledge in the soul. The strength that only in action feels its truth was large enough in a mute, omnipotent peace, a legion in the labor of the world, a pose in the joy and anguish of the search, restoring the stress of nature to God's calm, a vast unity and the life's debate, the world of thoughts that fathers the universe, the clash of forces struggling to prevail in the tremendous shock that lights a star as in the beginning of the grain of dust, the grooves that turn their dumb leaves in space, loved by the seeking of the world's desire, the long reverberations of times of birth, the torment edging, the dire force of lust, the grace kinetic in us, the learned slime, and cast of personality out of the mud, the sorrow by which nature's hunger is fed, the easters which creates with the fire of pain, the fate that punishes virtue with defeat, the treasury that destroys a long happiness, the weeping of love, the quarrel of the gods, seized in the truth, which lives in its own light.
Thank you. In this passage, we're given a view of kind of the passive realization of the Spirit, where he enters into a kind of a silent, peaceful oneness. And that second or third sentence, the long sentence, is one of the longest in the poem, I guess, and it describes kind of the activity, the clash of forces, the clash of ideas that belong to the world, all of that ceasing in his experience.
The voice can move the mind, it became a silent knowledge in the soul, the mind, the first and eight.
Yeah.
This is by still consciousness, how voice can move the mind, it became silent knowledge, through what? Because speech means our mind, you know?
Yeah. I think it gets at that the idea that we can only think in words. You know, like our thought is always a matter of kind of formulating ideas in some kind of words in language.
So how become a silent knowledge? It means
So all of that sound, that voice, that thinking, all quiets down.
How? I forgot because he near the still consciousness sustaining all. So how he near still? I forgot how he near.
The Sri says knowledge is not by thinking, but it's by identity. We already the knowledge by identity of the soul. You already have the image knowledge within. That's why when you still your mind, you're able to know it. But the mind only can see through thinking, and he says knowledge is not known by thinking or researching. It's silent knowledge in the soul because you already have it. It's by identity.
So the knowledge is there behind. She knows, but she's asking about, well, how does he get to that knowledge? And I would just say that in some sense, I feel like in these cantos, we're not given much information about Aswapati's sadhana, about his practice, about what he does in order to have this realization. It only, or at least mainly, just describes his realization. And it's like,
as I understand it,
according to this poetry, this Canto, that's why I'm asking.
as I understand it,
Yeah, please.
the soul is basic to Hindu philosophy. The soul is the responsibility of all knowledge. It's a question of how you catch the soul.
I am asking
That
from
nobody
this,
can tell you.
from this side.
This is poetry.
Well, I think it's through meditation and when you try to quiet your mind.
No, I'm just from this text. Because
Poetry.
he heard the still consciousness, so was written. He heard the still consciousness, so how he heard, I forgot what I read before, so I want to remind you.
he doesn't, Sri Aurobindo doesn't describe very much what he does. But the way he presents it more is Aswapati as an avatar. And so he kind of describes this just coming to him right from the beginning. His human self, like a translucent cloak, covered the all-wise who leads the unseeing world. So he describes him from the beginning, even, so I'm on page 22 in the kind of beginning of the canto. Although consenting to mortal ignorance, his knowledge shared the light ineffable. So right from the beginning, we're given a view of him as having, all these kind of realizations there. And he's more or less describing the realization in these cantos and his knowledge. We don't get, like we do with Savitri, much more, we get a look at her sadhana and what she does, her practice, and kind of a progression of her realization. In some sense, we get a progression of his also in the later cantos in Book 2, as he kind of is moving through the subtle worlds. But we don't get kind of the basics of sadhana and yoga, it's like he has this right from the beginning.
But I think a little bit is described in this two sentences, because became a silent knowledge in the soul, and how she already emphasized to go into the silence to get the knowledge. Yeah, this that is how they describe how to get to this state. This was my point.
I know.
I want to fix on this Savitri.
Yeah.
To me, clearly, the opposite of the silence. So then the voice started, you want to start the opposite of silence of meditation, as she said. But on the other hand, poets actually use the word meditation. They use a lot of opposite sense to say something else. It's not sometimes that this word means exactly that. Because it's not the life's bride in poetry. It's different. But that might be.
What we get a sense of here is him standing back in his consciousness, separate as a witness of all that's going on around. And in that kind of witness, he's removed from this flux, from this, kind of clash of ideas, of energies. He's standing apart from it in a peaceful silence. So
That's Zen master that we non-mind, no?
that is kind of an aim of, most meditations, right? To do that. And we'll see that described a little bit more. But here he's kind of, in the passage that you read, really marking out the contrast between the world of flux and movement and change and clash of forces and that peaceful unanimity or calm that stands apart from all of that. Yes.
But it there also 386 the wars of thoughts that fathers that universe.
Yeah.
Alors, his answer also for you. Thoughts is but not in the body. Maybe that for me is maybe physical mind. Talking, when you talk, is physically talking also, but is not really the real thoughts for me.
Yeah, I almost sense it as something even very high, like maybe in the overmind region or something, that even there the universe comes into existence through these different gods that kind of represent different ideas or different, aspects of the reality. And it's through that clash of these different aspects that is the father of this universe in which we live. Kind of the multiplicity coming out of the oneness. Anandi, would you like to continue?
Absorb no more in the moment reading class, where mind incessantly deals us rolling around. Having from phenomenon to phenomenon, he abode the lesson in indivisible time. As if a story long written but now, in his presence he held his future and his past. Felt in the circles the uncounted world. An aspect.
No, you skipped.
And so there was like dawn upon the edge. An aspect of the unknown reality altered the meaning of the cosmic scene. This huge material universe became a small result of a supernatural, overtaking the moment the eternal mind that which never yet was made. Thought lay down in a mighty gorgeousness. Story and thinking, brightness and blue spirit, wisdom that sent and touched his cool and bright. His soul, his saving known thought, mind clean no more,
Thank you.
Line 397. The ostrus which creates. What is the ostrus? The egg?
Estrus is it's kind of like heat. When an animal is in heat, sexually excited, that's estrus.
Which was written, desire the soul, and the creative force, desire the soul.
And before that weight, kinetic in Earth, the large plan. Kinetic is what, a name? I don't understand.
No, kinetic is like active, dynamic.
Yeah, but that weight is kinetic?
It becomes dynamic. We have this line at the beginning, just Anandi skipped over. His soul stood free, a witness and a king. So that's his soul standing back in a way from mind.
Aloof, use the word aloof for wisdom. I need to repeat.
Louder.
I'm not very much of Auroville use a lot aloof.
Aloof.
Sense, aloof, not distant, no? Took me time to understand. And somehow he repeats in all these things. No skin, his witness is not inside. No, it's like it's always a distance with the thing, no?
Yes.
Never involved.
Right.
I'm working. Yeah.
Standing back. Not only from thought, but also from, the vital. We have this tendency to jump into action, to respond, to react to things. So Mother always advised, step back, into your inner self, because there's something within us that can observe all of that from a distance and not become involved. But the mind also does that, becomes involved in a string of thoughts that just continue and continue and continue. And in this kind of station of consciousness in which he has, in his present he held his future and his past, felt in the seconds the uncounted years, and saw the hours like dots upon a page. So he even seems to be, in a sense, standing back from time and able to look upon time, past and future, looking at the whole range of time in one glance.
Also the line before this is interesting, as if a story long written but acted now, as how it was before planned. I think Aswapati crucial making harmonize. As a Linda crucial.
What does he mean by the next two lines? An aspect of the unknown reality alters the meaning of the cosmic scene.
And then I think it's described in the lines that follow that. This huge material universe became a small result of a stupendous force, overtaking the moment, the eternal ray, illumined that which never yet was made. So in that view, standing back from the clash of forces and from time, he sees the universe kind of in its context of the overall reality. And seeing it in the light of the truth, it changes its significance. I mean, well, for us, being caught up in that flux, we don't maybe find much significance, but there he sees it illumined with meaning, but it's one result of that larger reality. Maybe it's one possibility that existed within that reality. Would you like to continue, Chris?
Across a void retreating sky he blazed, through a last glimmer and drift of vanishing stars, the superconscient realms of motionless peace, where judgment ceased and the word is loosed, and unconceived lies parted alone. There came not form or any mounting voice, there only were silence and the absolute. Out of that stillness, mind newborn arose, and woke to truths once inexpressible, and forms appeared, dumbly significant. A seeing thought, a self-revealing voice. He knew the source from which his spirit came. Movement was married to the immobile advance to the immobile. He plunged his roots into the infinite. He based his life upon eternity.
Thank you.
Maybe silence with capital is possible, the one that you were talking before. Not just
Can you
silence.
wait? Can we wait?
I cannot, I'm not well, I'm sorry. I think
No, she's,
what you said before about this kind of silence, here with capital.
Yes.
What you were talking about, not just silence, some other meaning.
so we see him going into that silence, going into the transcendent consciousness, beyond thought, and there he's experiencing a new knowledge, a different type of knowledge than the thinking mental knowledge. So wisdom transcendent touched his quivering heart. His soul could sail beyond thought's luminous bar. Mind screen no more the shoreless infinite. So he comes into a realm of motionless peace, where judgment ceases and the word is mute, and the unconceived lies pathless and alone. And there was no form or any mounting voice. Only were silence and the absolute. But then, in these last lines, which are important, because out of that silence, then this dynamic side of the realization comes. So a new kind of force, a seeing force, a conscious force, arises out of that silence. So out of that stillness, mind newborn arose and woke to truths once inexpressible. And forms appeared, dumbly significant, a seeing thought, a self-revealing voice. So these are in contrast to that mental voice of thought. Huh? It's the higher knowledge. The divine knowledge. He knew the source from which his spirit came. Movement was married to the immobile vast. He plunged his roots into the infinite. He based his life upon eternity. So that becomes kind of the base, that peace and silence, formlessness, becomes the base for his life, for his action, for his thought. The two are united.
So King Aspat is in Samadhi.
In samadhi? I don't know, maybe.
It's the, when you concentrate on big trance, then you can reach this level.
But when he says he based his life upon upon eternity, it suggests he doesn't maybe have to remain in indrawn concentration, that even in his dynamic living, he can experience this, I think.
As you just said before, marriage is here the movement and the immobility together.
Yeah, that's why I keep referring to this kind of integral realization. Sri Aurobindo has mentioned it a few times explicitly. An integral realization, marrying this realization of the silent Brahman with the dynamic Brahman.
You have example when you have in ashram Bumbu, in Iran, he wrote every window is open and he walking. The immobile silence. You don't listen the destruction of. It's very, very, very interesting. Together is inside him.
You're referring to when there was a cyclone outside. There was a huge storm blowing outside. Sri Aurobindo had the window open and it was perfectly serene and calm in his room. He didn't even...
No water enter inside, nothing. It's fabulous.
A witness and a gift.
We can continue. Would you like to read?
Only a while, at first, these heavenlier states, these large wide poised upliftings could endure. The high and luminous tension breaks too soon. The body's stern stillness, the life's hushed trance, the breathless might and calm of silent mind. Or slowly they fail as sets above the dead. The restless nether members tire of peace, the nostalgia of all little works and joys, the need to hold back small familiar selves, to tread the accustomed and inferior way, the need to rest in a natural pose of fall, as a child who learns to walk and walk not long. Replace the Titan will that ever to climb. On the earth's altar dim the sacred fire. An old pool of subconscious chords renews. It draws the unwilling spirit from the heights, or a dull gravitation drags us down to the blind-driven inertia of our days. This too the supreme diplomat can use. He makes our fall a means for greater rise.
Thank you. This section we haven't read through yet, so we can just read through without commenting till the end of the canto, and then we'll go back again to reread and to comment. Nitya, would you continue?
ignorant nature's gusty field, into the half-ordered chaos of modern life. The formless power, the self of eternal light, follow in the shadow of the Spirit's descent. The twin duality forever one chooses its form with the tumults of the sense. He comes unseen into our darker paths, and curtained by the darkness does his work. A subtle and all-knowing guest and guide, till they too feel the need and will to change. All here must learn to obey a higher law. Our body's cells must hold the immortal's flame, else would the spirit reach alone its source, leaving the half-saved world to its devious fate. Nature would ever labor unredeemed. Our earth would ever spin unhelped in space, and this immense creation's purpose fail, till at last the frustrate universe sank undone. Even his godlike strength to rise must fall. His greater consciousness withdrew behind, dim and eclipsed, his human outside strove, to feel again the old sublimities, bring the high-sailing touch, the ethereal flame, call back to its dire need the divine force.
Thank you. Margaret?
Always the power pulled back like sun rain, or slowly mispressed the brilliancy. It clambered back to some remembered height, or saw above the peak from which it fell. Each time he rose, there was a larger cause, a dwelling on a higher spirit plane. The light remained in him a longer space. In this oscillation between earth and heaven, in this ineffable communion's cry, there grew in him, as grows a waxing moon, the glory of the interior of his soul. A union of the real within me, a gaze of the unknown from every face, the presence of the eternal in the hours, while the mortal minds half look on things, bridging the gap between man's force and faith, made whole to fragment being the idea. At last was one, a firm spiritual poise, a constant logic in the eternal realm, a safety in the silence and the ray, a settlement in the usual.
Thank you. Robin?
His height of being lived in the still self. His mind would rest on the supernal ground, and look down on the magic and the play, where the God-child lies on the lap of night and dawn, and the everlasting cuts on time's disgrace. To the still eyes and to the troubled death, his equal spirit gave its vast ascent, a poised sincerity of tranquil strength, a wide unshaked look on time's unrest, faced all experience with unaltered peace. Indifferent to the sorrow and delight, and tempted by the marvel and the cold, immobile it beheld the flux of things, calm and apart supported all that is. The spirit stillness helped the toiling world. Inspired by silence and the closed eyesight, his force would work with a new luminous art on the crude materials from which all is made, and the refusal of inertia mass and the grey front of the world's ignorance, initial matter and the huge error of life. As a sculptor chisels of deity out of stone, he slowly shipped out the dark envelope, line of defense of nature's ignorance, the illusion and mystery of the inconscient, in whose black path the eternal grasps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time.
Thank you. Sudan?
The splendor of self-creation overtakes the transfiguration in the mystic depths. A happier cosmic working to begin reflection of all shapes. God, all in nature completely God. Already in him of sin, the crux of all. Light made its home on the high tops of self, his soul, mind, all became a single sun. Only life's war which is very deep. But there too, in the uncertain shadow of life, there was a river and a fairy bed, the ambiguous, proud, celestial cushions one. Touched by the inner witness peace, even on the struggling nature left below, strong place of illumination came, lighting of glory after glory born. Experience was a tale of days and fire, where rippled all the artists at the top. Strange faces sailed to him from the unseen, splendor of inside beauty, a blank of thought. The voice spoke to the inconscient stillness. Rivers poured out of peace and luminous flows. Visions of beauty, strong sweeps of light, rain from the all-powerful mystery alone.
Thank you. Ganga Lakshmi.
Since took the eagles of omniscience. The band's veil was rent, a mighty whisper heard, repeating the privacy of his soul, a wisdom cry from rapt transcendence, sang on the mountains of unseen world, the voices that an inner listening hears, conveying to him their prophet utterances, and a flame wrapped outburst of the immortal word, a flash of an occult prevailing light, approaching from the unreachable secrecy. An inspiring knowledge sapped and thrown within. His servants illumine more than resonance years. An ictus of revealing us fell, as if pointing a sun upon tree, and like the sky flame, showing all the ground, a shift intuitive discernment showed. One glance which separates the truth and false, or rise its rapid torch fire in the dark, to check the claimants crowding through mind's gates, covering by the forged signatures of the gods, detect the magic bride in her disguise, or scan the apparent face of thought and life.
Thank you. Tineke?
Of inspiration with her lightning feet, a sudden messenger from the all-seeing tops, traversed the soundless corridors of his mind, bringing a rhythmic sense of hidden things. A music spoke, transcending mortal speech, as if from the golden fire of the all-bliss, a joy of light, a joy of sudden sight, a rapture of the thrilled, undying word poured into his heart as into the empty cup. A repetition of God's first delight, creating in a young and virgin family. In a brief moment caught, a little space, all knowledge packed into great wordless thoughts, lodged in the expectant stillness of his death, a crystal of the ultimate absolute, a portion of the inexpressible truth revealed by silence to the silent soul. The intense creatrix in his stillness wrought, her power, fallen speechless, grew more intimate. She looked upon the seen and the unforeseen. Unguessed domains, she made her naked feel.
Thank you. Continue.
All vision gathered into a single ray, as when the eyes stare at an invisible point, till through the intensity of one luminous spot, an apocalypse of a world of images enters into the kingdom of the seer. The great nude arm of splendor suddenly rose. It rent the gaze opaque of nations. Her lifted kindles keen and thinkable tip, paired with a stab of flame, the close beyond. An eye awake in voiceless height of trance, a mind tapping at the unimaginable, overleaping with a soul and perilous bound the high black wall, hiding superconscious. She broke in with inspired speech for sight and plundered the unknowable's vast estate. A gleaner of infinitesimal grains of truth, a sheath binder of infinite experience. She pierced the guarded mysteries of world force, and her magic methods wrapped in 1,000 veils. Or she gathered the lost secrets dropped by time in the dust and crannies of his mountain wood, mid all forsaken dreams of hastening mind, and buried remnants of forgotten space.
Thank you. A traveler between summit and abyss, she joined the distant ends, the viewless deeps, or streaked along the roads of heaven and hell, pursuing all knowledge like a questing hound. A reporter and scribe of hidden wisdom talk, her shining minutes of celestial speech pass through the masked office of the occult mind, transmitting gave to prophet and to seer the inspired body of the mystic truth, a recorder of the inquiry of the gods, spokesman of the silent seeings of the Supreme. She brought immortal words to mortal men. Above the reason's brilliant, slender curve, released like radiant air dimming a moon, broad spaces of a vision without line or limit swam into his spirit's ken. Oceans of being met his voyaging soul, calling to infinite discovery, timeless domains of joy and absolute power, stretched out, surrounded by the eternal hush. The ways that lead to endless happiness ran like dream smiles through meditating vasts, disclosed, stood up in a gold moment's blaze, white sun steps in the pathless infinite. Anandi.
I'm gonna make care about myself. The point that runs through the closed-hearted face. Shadow, the indeterminable line that carries the everlasting through the years. The magician, or forgotten tonight, coercing the freedom within with the star red of nature's simple facts. And life's incessant silence prevent, transmute, chant exuberance into rose, chaos of science into the universe. Out for rich wonders and the intricate world of the spirit dancing with matter and its mask. The balance of the world is silently clear. Its imagery of self-arrangement, managed with the deep perspectives of the soul and the realism of its innocent art, with logic of infinite intelligence, it magics of changing eternity. A glimpse was caught of things forever and more. The letters stood out of the moon world. In the immutable nameless origin was seen emerging from fathomless seas, the trail of the ideas of the world, and sown with the black earth of nature's stars. The needs of the spirit blind and huge desire, for which the tree of cosmos was conceived, and spread with magic sounds through a veil of space.
Thank you. Mio.
Immense reality took on shape. There out from the shadow of the unknown, a bodiless namelessness, the soul God born, and tries to gain from the mortal's mind and soul a deathless body and a divine name. The immobile lips, the great surreal wings, the diseased mask, like superficial sleep. The eyes, with their closer lids, they see all things, appeared of the architect who lives in trance. The original desire born in the body peered out. He saw the hope that never sleeps, the feet that run behind a fleeting fate, the ineffable meaning of the endless dream, hardly for a moment glimpsed illness in mind, as if a torch held by the power of God, the radiant word of the everlasting truth, glimmering like a faint star, while bordering the night, above the golden overmined shimmering ridge. Even were caught as through a cunning veil, the smile of love that sanctions a long game, the calm indulgence and the machinery rest of wisdom, subduing the child laughter of chance, silence the nurse of the Almighty's power, the omniscient hush, womb of the immortal word, and of the timeless, the still-reading face, and the creative eye of eternity.
Thank you. Krista?
The inspired goddess entered a mortal's breast, made there her study of dividing thought, and sanctuary of prophetic speech, and sat upon the tripod seat of wine. All was made wise above, all lit below. In darkness, for she dug out wells of night. On the undiscovered depth imposed a form, lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered past. And through the great shoreless, voiceless, starless threads, bore earthward fragments of the human thought, hewn from the silence of ineffable. A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name, the dream of thinking thought wandering through space, entered the invisible and forbidden past. The treasure was found of a supernal day. In the deep subconscious belonging of the land, lifted, it showed the riches of the cave, where by the research traffickers of sense, unused, guarded beneath the night's dragon walls. In folds of velvet darkness, great whose priceless value could have saved the world.
Thank you.
The darkness-carrying morning in its breast looked for the eternal wide returning moon, waiting to vent of the larger ray and rescue the lost herds of the sun. In a splendid extravagance of the waste of God, dropped carelessly in creation's spendthrift work, left in the chantiers of the bottomless world and stolen by the robbers of the deep. The golden shekels of the eternal lie, hoarded from touch and greed of thought's desire, locked in blind antlers of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and believe them as gods. The vision lightened on the viewless heights, the wisdom illumined from the voiceless depth, the deeper interpretation greatened truth, the grand reversal of the night and day. All the world's values changed, heightening life's aim. The wiser word, the larger thought came in than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. The secret sense awoke that could perceive the presence of a greatness everywhere. The universe was not now this senseless world borne round inert on an immense machine. It cast away its grandiose lifeless front, the mechanism no more or work of chance, but a living movement of the body of God. The spirit hidden forces and informs was the spectator of the Moran scene, the beauty and the ceaseless miracle let in the glow of the unmanifest, the formless everlasting moved in it, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things. Life kept no more dull and meaningless shape. In the struggle and upheaval of the world, he saw the labor of the Godhead's birth.
Thank you. Nitya?
A secret knowledge, masked as ignorance, fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent world. A glory and a rapture and a charm, with all the spirits that the moon in the heart. Earth's pains are the ransom of its prison right. A glad communion due to passing hours. The days like travelers on a destiny way. The nights companions whose musings fleet. A heavenly impetus quickened always first. The trudge of time changed to a splendid march. The divine draft towered to unconquered worlds. Earth grew too narrow for his victory. Once only registering the heavy tread of a blind follow from human littleness, life now became a sure approach to God. Existence, a divine experiment, and cosmos, the soul's opportunity. The world was a conception and a birth of spirit in matter into living forms, and nature rolled the immortal into him, that she might fly through him to eternal life. His being lay down in bright and wide peace, and bathed in wells of pure spiritual light. It wandered in wide fields of wisdom self, lit by the rays of an everlasting sun. Even his body's subtle self within could raise the earthly paths towards higher things, and feel on it breath of heavenlier act. Already it journeyed towards divinity, upheld upon wings of rapid joy, upheld to a light it could not always find. It left mind's distance from the truth supreme, and lost life's incapacity for bliss. All now suppressed in us began to age.
Thank you. Margaret?
Thus came his soul's release from ignorance, his mind and body's first spiritual change. A wide knowledge poured down from above, a new world knowledge drawn from within. His daily thoughts looked up to the true and one. His commonest doings dwelt from an inner light. Awakened to the lines that nature hides, attuned to her movements that exceed our ken, he grew one with the forward universe. This grasp surprised her mightiest energies springs. He spoke with the unknown gardens of the world. Forms he described our mortal eyes see not. His wide eyes embodied viewless entities. He saw the cosmic forces at their work and felt the occult impulse behind man's will. Time's secrets bear to him an oft-read book. the records of the future and the past outline their excerpts on a still page, warm and harmonious by the maker's skill. The human in him faced with the divine. His acts betrayed not the interior flame. This forged the greatness of his front to earth. A genius hiding in his body self that knew the meaning of his fate-edged words, taking the march of unaccomplished powers beyond life's art and spirit's immensity. Apart, he lived in his mind's solitude, a demigod shaping the lives of men. One soul's ambition lifted up the race. Our world, but not me when it's came. The universal strength were linked with this filling earth's warmness with their boundless breath. He drew the energies that transmute an age. Measured by the common book, he made great dreams the mold for common things, and cast his deeds like bronze to from the years. His walk through time outstripped the human stride, lonely his days and splendor like the sun.
Thank you. We can stop there for today. Maybe just have a minute or two of quiet meditation.